Rolling. Okay, here we go. Good. Here we are at the South Campus doing this first lab 2.3.3.4. And the first thing I want you guys to do is I had you go through and click on that shortcut to do the VMware. So find the VMware and bring it up on your screen. And I'll show you what it looks like on mine here. Hold on. It may be minimized to the bottom of your screen here with these two little interlocking squares. If it's not present on your screen, just click those and it'll bring it up. And you're looking for a screen that looks something like this. And I don't think I had you guys start any of your PCs. So what it looks like is on this left-hand column, and I'm going to go around and check and make sure you guys are cool here before we get going. Because the first part of the lab, we're going to be setting a network address or an IP address on our two virtual PCs, PCA, PCB. Make sure they can ping each other. I've already started mine, and I want to check and make sure everyone else is okay. So, okay, go ahead and start your two PCs. Just click on the PCA, and then click the green start button, and then click on the other one, and click the green start button. And it will take just a second for those two machines to boot up. Okay, so yeah, click on the green start, and then click on PCB on the left, and click on the green start one more time for him. And he'll take a minute to start. So you got your game started? You already started? Okay. Okay, you got yours going? Good. Now, while we wait for your individual guys' PCs to start up, I'm going to show you the first part of this lab here is on page. Now, if this was a normal lab, you would do your own wiring, but nothing's normal anymore. Okay, so I can't let you put your grubby grimmies on the wires. Sorry. So I pre-wired all the labs myself. And the way this room is set up, we've got this rack full of equipment in the back. We got routers and switches. Today we're going to use, each of you guys are going to use two switches and those two virtual PCs, PCA, PCB from your one single workstation. You'll be able to do that from one workstation without having to use a second workstation. So everybody see that at every desk, you've got this little 4-port patch panel. Two of those ports carry the two Ethernet connections from your PCA, PCB back to the room and rack in the room in the back. And the two others carry the console connection. When you first configure a Cisco device, it has no configuration yet. You have to go into the console connection to set it up. We're going to do that in the second portion of the lab after we test the PCs and make sure they can talk to each other and make sure they can ping each other. So you turned up both your PCA and your PCB. And they're going out through those, I think on most of you guys, it's the yellow and the gray cable at your little workstation. And so, for example, Mohammed is sitting at number D. And so if we go back to the room and we find the D letter on the alphabet, here it is, where is it? D. So his 4 wires come to this panel right here. So he's connected to these two switches. This little gray console cables, the console cable on the switch is in the back of the switch. You can't see it. So everyone's got their own private 2 switches. They've got their own private PCA, PCBs, like you had 2 computers. Now, if you go to some of our other campuses in this class, they actually have different computers. But here we do it all in one room. Because we're the oldest campus, we're the South Campus, we're kind of short on space. And I've got my own 2, so here's what a Cisco switch looks like. So in the front, it has 24 fast Ethernet ports. We're going to use some of those today. It also has 2 gigabit speed, which is 10 times faster than fast Ethernet. No fair, we haven't talked about the speeds yet. Okay, fast Ethernet is 100 million bits per second. Original Ethernet was 10 million bits per second. And then gigabit Ethernet is 1 billion bits per second. It's even 10 times faster than that. And we have newer technologies now that usually go over fiber optic cable that can go 10 or 25 or 40 or 100 gigabits over fiber optic cable, which is carrying more data than a copper cable. We're all copper in here. This series of switches has an option if you want to use a fiber optic connection. Cisco, please come in. Have a seat. I'll get you up to speed here in just a second. See if you can log in with your web advisor name and password. Any place that has a chair. No place that has an X with no chair. Just any workstation that has a chair. These switches, the 2 gigabit ports, as an alternative, you can plug in a little transceiver device and use fiber optic cable. We won't do that in the class. We'll just use all copper cable, just standard yellow Ethernet cables. The console port for the switch is on the back. I think they did that on purpose so that, some jackleg technician in the wiring closet doesn't mix it up and try to plug in the console port and try to use it for the new dean's computer or something. It won't work. It's not Ethernet connection. It's our serial console port that we're going to get to in just a second. And this looks like the back of your computer, standard IEC power connector, standard computer power connector. Plug that in, it'll turn on. There's no switch. Switches don't have switches. Why? Because if we put a switch on it, some idiot would turn it off and the whole department wouldn't work anymore. So switches don't have switches. So you go into the wiring closet, there are all these Cisco switches there. Our wiring closet is just around the corner there, and we've got a whole bunch of Cisco racks and switches. It's about as big as a toilet stall. It's not that big. So we got to really cram them in there. So I've got a couple of Cisco switches wired up here for today's lab. I'm going to duplicate what you guys are doing in the back of the room. But first of all, we got to do our PCs. So let's go to our first PC. I'm going to start with my PCA. If you click on these tabs at the top of the screen, I'm on PCB. I'm going to start with PCA. I'm going to click on the PCA tab. Did you get logged in yet? You having a password error? Or is it coming up? If we have a password error, we have a technician here. Oh, it's your web advisor name and password? What's your last name? Igor. Sorry? Igor. What was the first letter? First letter of your last name? I? No, I don't have I. Which one are you? Oh, Pampo? You Mr. Pampo? Okay. Yeah, I remember you emailed me. This is your username, okay? And then put the same password you used when you don't get it. And see if it gets in. If it doesn't get in, I can have it reset it. Okay, so I'm on PCA, and what I want to do in the instructions here, the problem with these instructions is they're written for an early version of Windows, where you click Start, and there was a control panel. So I'm going to click the Start button. Sometimes you have to click twice to bring focus to the virtual machine. There's no control panel. You can type the word control, and then you can get the control panel, okay? And then you can do all the stuff he has in there about click, network, internet, all this other stuff. However, for your convenience, I placed a shortcut called Cisco Lab Shortcut on the screen. And when I double click that, it takes us right to the network control panel, and I can just click properties and do what I need to do for this step. I'll show you that one more time. So Cisco Lab Shortcut, double click on that, and then click the word properties. And what I've done essentially is skip all the way to page 6 of the lab. And they show that circled. They show this one here circled. We're going to go in and we're going to put a network address on PCA, and we're going to put another network address on PCB that are, compatible enough with each other that we should be able to ping them from each other. So I'm going to double click on that, and you should get this screen. Now I'm going to check and make sure everyone's got this screen, because we've got to get to this screen next. Oh, you got teeny win. Oh, did you bring your electron microscope? Okay. If you put your VMware on the little screen on the left-hand side, you won't have that problem. You won't get teeny stuff. So click the properties. Oh, you have it right there. And double click on the TCP/IP version 4. Did you get logged in? Oh, you got logged in. Oh, good deal. Okay, let's do the thing with you. Hold on, do me a favor. Double click on the C drive. Double click on the Victor V folder. Double click the bottom shortcut. And hang with this. Go ahead, double click. double click on the A shortcut. Sorry. Okay. Don't stop it. Don't stop it. Minimize it. Minimize it. Skip this version. Minimize it. Now double click on the PC A shortcut. The one on the top. Okay, double click that. There you go. Now click the green resume, and then click on PCB, and click the green. Someone didn't shut this machine down gracefully. Always shut these machines down gracefully. Don't hibernate them. So everyone's got the control panel up, except they may be miniaturized. See, I've got my VMware over the little tiny screen, which doesn't have any kind of bleeding eye resolution. By default, Windows and every other operating system in the world sets itself to something called give me an IP address automatically from the network server somewhere. So that us IT guys are relieved of the duty and obligation of having to run around to every one of the hundreds of thousands of PCs in the whole company and statically configure their IP addresses. I used to have to do that. This protocol didn't come out to the mid-90s. So during the entire decade of the 90s, I worked downtown in the tallest story of the tallest building in Fort Worth for a college textbook publishing company, Harcourt Brace. Yes, I know all about the college textbook publishing scam. Oh, we're giving you books for free. Yeah, we're fighting the system here. And I would have to run around with a bunch of Macintosh, mostly Macintosh people, because a college textbook operation is a lot of graphical desktop publishing setup stuff. So they use a bunch of Macintoshes. And let me tell you something about Macintosh people. They already know everything there is to know about computers. So they would just make up numbers and put them in these addresses here. You can't do that. Some central person has got to be in charge. If you get .1, you get .2, and you get .3, and he goes to .1, we got a conflict now. Microsoft gets mad, he shuts down. So in the mid-90s, about 1995, they came out with this. The protocol is called DHCP. We'll use it in a later course. Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. It automatically gives an IP address to, so your home router does this. Your home router gives an automatic IP address to all the wirelessly attached and directly plugged in devices. You don't have to worry about keeping lists of duplicate addresses. But we're not going to, there's no DHCP server in this lab. We need to do static addressing. So I'm going to click the button that says use the following address. And he tells you to do this on the top of page 7. And I'm going to put in this address 192. Now notice I tapped the 192 and it jumped to the second dot automatically. And the second one is 168 and it jumped to the third position automatically. And the third number is a 1 and it doesn't jump because it's waiting for you to type 2 more numbers. So you can touch the period and it'll jump. And the last number is supposed to be a 10. Or you can hover with your mouse and click on it and get in there. Now watch this. Next line, what does it say? 255.255.255.0. Okay, I'm going to just touch the tab key. And he filled it in for me. Microsoft treats you like an idiot. Of course, that's the most commonly used subnet mask in the world is 255.255.255.0. That's a normal size network for home or small business that has about 200 possible numbers. We don't have to fill in the default gateway value. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then I'll click the second OK. And then I'll close this. Now I'm going to repeat this on my PCB, except I'm going to make him, he's 1. PCB is 1.11 instead of 1.10. So I'm going to double click on the Cisco Lab Shortcut. This time I'll go through the control panel thing so it looks like it does in the instructions. So here's the control panel. And we're supposed to look at it by category. Then you're supposed to go to network and internet, view network status and tasks. And then you're supposed to click change adapter settings. And then you're supposed to right click and choose properties. And there's our thing again. Now, isn't it easier just to click that Cisco Lab Shortcut? Because I made that shortcut to go straight here. Okay, so I'll go to IP version 4, obtain address automatically on our second PC. We need to change that to use the following address. And he's supposed to be 192.168.1.11. So I have both these PCs set up with it to be correct. So at the bottom of page 7, there's a step, like remember Ronald Reagan, the president from the 1980s? And we were fighting with the Russians over who should get the missiles. And we both promised we would cut back on our atomic missiles. And Reagan said, we're going to check each other out. He says, trust, but verify. Yeah, we trust you, Russians, that you're going to get rid of these missiles, but we want to fly our spy planes over and check and make sure. To this day, the Russians are still allowed to fly their spy planes over the United States to make sure we don't have too many missiles. Okay, so we're going to verify the configuration of this. And he says on step 2, we're going to go down to this, sorry, right here. I'm going to type CMD, which is short for, oops. Why are you not letting me type? Oh, I'll start with BCA. Let's see. Here we go, command prompt. I tried to type CMD. There we go. Command prompt applied. So this is the old DOS command prompt. We're going to type a command here to make sure we get connected. Oh, you couldn't get it click? Click the button, use the address on that. This is your PCB. So click in there, and then type 192, 168, 1, touch the period, and then type this is 11. Go, put your mouse back up, and click your mouse in there, and type 11. There we go. And then click OK, and click the second close, and oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, I put a shortcut on these Windows machines to take you straight to the command prompt. It's to see this clunky C:\\\. You can click on that and you can get your screen immediately.
Excuse me, sir. Mine already has number on it. So do I need to...
Oh, someone left a number on it. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to click the top button to erase all that, and then click the second button and put in your number. Yes. Yeah, the Gonzo secret insider tip is that there's some number on there before from the last guy in the advanced Cisco class. We just finished with another Cisco class last week. Click the top button that says obtain the address automatically, and then click put in the number again, and it'll erase it all real quick. You don't have to erase it. Okay, so the instructions on page 7 say we're supposed to type the command ipconfig, that's all one word, /all, and see some information on the screen. And so here we can see, this is shifting my PC A 192.168.1.10. It took, occasionally these VM machines get freaky and don't want to take the address, so we have to sort of slap some sense into them. And what we do is briefly disable the virtual port and re-enable it, and that almost always fixes it. So it matches the address that I put in. The 192.168.1.10 is okay. Now, I'm supposed to say in the bottom half of page 8, I'm supposed to ping. We're supposed to use the ping command. The ping command is your best friend. In networking, the ping command is like sonar in submarine. Remember the Hunt for Red October movie? Captain says, sonar operator, ping the target, one ping only, please. Because he's sending a Morse code message to the American captain. He's trying to defect the United States and turn in his new high-tech submarine. Sean Connery, remember Sean Connery, the 07 guy? He was the captain in Hunt for Red October. So ping in a submarine, you send the ping out, and it bounces back, and you can see how far I need to set my torpedo to fire when it gets to the ship. I don't want the fire when it hits me. Remember in that movie, you idiot, you've killed us. They killed themselves with their own Russian torpedo. The Russian guy did. So ping in networking is like that. It sends out electronic, specially crafted small packet. It's called Internet Control Message Protocol Echo Request. Let's just call it ping. And if the workstation you're trying to check to see if you can communicate with them is online, it'll answer. It'll say echo request, echo reply, he'll reply. So when I type ping, and I'm 192.1.10, 192.168.1.11, that's good. He's replying. I'm hearing, are you there? Yes, I'm here. And he does it 4 or 5 times. DOS does it 4 or 5 times. So now I have got good connectivity through all of this jazz here, from the PCA all the way through the 2 switches, all the way to the other device. It's there. And if I didn't make a mistake in your wiring, you should get that too. If not, troubleshoot is necessary. Well, if you have a problem with that, come. Okay, but in the interest of time and the recording, let's go ahead and skip to the next portion. I'm going to show you guys how to get your console and go into the switches. The switches, I checked them. They all should be erased. But we're going to check and see here. I don't think anyone's been in here since then. So I'm at the top of page 9 here, and we're going to console into the switch. It says using TerraTurn. So let me see. I'm going to put my DOS prompt away. And I'm going to use not the Terra term in the VM. There is a Terra term in the VM, but it's not connected. So minimize your VMware workstation program like I did. Click the minus sign and minimize it. And you should see toward the middle of the top of your screen, the T Terra term. And I'm going to show you the real weird stuff about how we're working in here, because there's a gotcha. You can click on the wrong thing and have a problem. So I'm going to click on Terra term. Everybody click on your yellow Terra term. You should see something like this. Okay. Now I'm going to click the serial radio button, and it should say COM1 by default. I'm going to accept that. That's going to be your switch one. I'm going to click OK. Now what I like to do is, for purposes of the projector, as I like to increase the font size slightly, I like to increase it to 14 so everybody can see it. Now I'm going to click in the blackness to bring focus to it and press the enter key. Oh, good, I've got a prompt. It's working. That's going to be my switch one. We talked about the iOS. The switch comes up. It's unconfigured completely. Many of these switches that ship into business are never configured. They just are switched. They automatically start, choosing the best path for Ethernet to go. Now I'm going to click Terra term again. I have to move this out of the way. I'm going to click it again, and I'm going to bring up a second copy of Terra term. I can't use COM1. It's gone. Do not use the COM3. That's the Intel management for our IT people to manage our systems. Instead, click on this pick list and choose. It should be COM4 for most of you guys.
Mine's not connected.
Sorry, what? Yeah, you got your COM1. It's working. It's working. Now click on Terra term again. Click serial. Choose the pick list and change it to 4. Click OK. Hit your key once or twice. There you go. That's going to be your switch one. Switch one is going to be your switch two. Okay, what's happening? You're not getting nothing. COM1 is correct. Oh no. Okay, hang on. So you got something. Click in the blackness to bring focus to it. Press the enter key a couple times. Okay, good. Now start Terra term again, and we're going to get you switch to. Click serial. Change this to 4. Click OK. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Okay. Click in the middle. Make sure its focus is to it, and press your enter key a couple times. There you go. Now click Terra term again. Click the serial radio button. Change it to COM4. Here's the thickness. Change it to 4. Click OK. Press your enter key a couple times. Press your enter key a couple times. Okay, you're good. Huh?
I was asking the ping up. You have to ping this.
The ping will not be from the switch prop. We're not ready to do that yet. The pings will be from the virtual machines. Okay, let's get everybody connected to their COM1 and COM2 first. You got one. Did you get the other? Have you got both of them? Oh, you have COM4. Can you drag this down so we can see? Okay, click. Where's your other Terra term? Okay, click serial. Click OK. Press enter a couple times on the keyboard. You're good. You got both switches. So you got both switches. You so far have no switches. My fault entirely. I'm going to check your wires. You're okay. You're okay. You're okay. Okay. So let's see. You are number H. And it's COM1 and COM4. And let's see what's going on with your wires. So there's something with your wires. H. I sure did something wrong with your wires. Oh, I see what I did. HI, I think I swapped them with your neighbor. That should be I. I think I swapped H and I by mistake. I think that's letter I. Oh, that's G. G. Okay, so G and H were swapped. I should move. Now press the enter key and see if you got it. Okay, and click on this one and see if it's done. So everyone's got their console connected. Good, good. Okay, so we're on page 9 of the lab, and we're going to put some small configuration. Now notice that the ping is going to be able to work even before you do any configuration on the switch. We're just going to apply some management configuration to the switch like you normally would do in anything bigger than a small business. Because a lot of this class is configuring the switches, configuring the routers, so you can manage them later. So at the top of page 9, click on your box. Make sure you're clicked to your COM1 box. At the top it says Term COM1. Oops. Let's see, I did my COM1. I'm not start my COM4. Hold on. We're still recording? Yeah, we're still recording. Good. I'm going to make this font a little bigger for purposes of seeing it on my lousy little projector and for the purposes of those people that are reviewing this later as a recording. Okay. So the prompt matches in that picture. Step number 2, we're going to go to the privilege exec mode. So we're at the user exec mode, has that greater than or caret symbol. I'm going to type the command enable. No passwords have been set yet. So I go right to the privilege exec mode. Now I'm going to type the configure terminal command, config T. Prompt changes to switch config #. This is the level we're going to be in mostly when we actually make changes to the device. The first thing he tells us to do is give him a host name, S1. Remember the graphic about the lady in the purple blouse, and she had floor 1, floor 2, and floor 3, and she had to give each one of them a unique host name. This is the one on the floor 1. This is the one on level 2. This is the one on level 3, so she knows which device she's operating on. And hey, yeah, where's all the chicks? Girls in STEM, women in tech. That's a hard time getting those girls to come in these classes with all these smelly, nerdy guys, huh? We have to try to get in. That's a big challenge in education. Okay, we gave it a name. Now the next command, step 5, toward the slower half of the page. This is a command that if you make a typing mistake, it won't hang the machine up for a couple of minutes and you sit there and bite your nails. So I'm going to type no IP domain lookup. And that means if I make a typing error, I'll get my prompt back instantly. I won't have to wait for a minute or 2. It won't put me in the penalty box. Now, let's put in our passwords. I'm on step 6. The first password is going to be enable secret. And we use the word class. We use the same passwords for all the Cisco labs and the whole Cisco Network Academy the whole darn time, so that if you come into a class laboratory and someone else has forgotten to erase their device when they're done, which is bad manners, you'll know what the password is, or you can easily go in and reset the device yourself. Because you need to start with a fresh, clean device with no remnants of any kind of previous configuration on there. It could mess up your lab. It could conflict with your lab. Now, what did that do? What that did was, I'm going to log off. I logged back in. I wasn't asked for the password. I haven't set the password yet. I'll type the word enable. What's the frequency, Kenneth? What's the secret password? It's the word class. Now, when I type it, nothing shows on the screen. No one can look over your shoulder and see that. Now, when I do a show run, enable secret, it's been encrypted. The secret password form is what we use, so it's encrypted. There is another version I mentioned in the lecture, enable password class. It will show it in plain text. It's there for previous compatibility with really old equipment. We're not going to use that. We're going to use high security. Okay, now I need to password protect the console. So I'm going to go back to the global configuration mode and say line console 0. There's only one console. Why is it 0? Why is it not console 1? Ask some computer science professor to count his fingers, and he will say this. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We always start with 0 in the computer science world. So the first one is the 0 with 1. 0 or more, as they say. Okay, password Cisco sets the password. And then the command login allows people to, to log in. So what I've done now is, notice the difference. I'm going to go out of the machine and come back in again. And this time, before you even get to the console, you have to know that the password is Cisco. So I'll put Cisco, doesn't show on the screen. And then I'll type enable, and I have to know this class there. You have to know those 2 passwords to be able to get into the point where you can configure the device and do stuff with it. Okay, I'm at the bottom of page 9. I'm going to put a warning banner. Let me tell you a little story. I took a C class, programming class at UTA in around 1989, 1990. Okay, there was no C++ then. I think it was C-, really old C on the VAX machine, a kind of a mainframe computer that was popular back then. My first dial-up account ever. I was able to dial into their modems. So I would dial up from home to do my C- homework. And I would dial into the system, and it would say, welcome to the UTA Computing Center. The system might be down Sunday, AM from 1 to 3 AM for maintenance. It should be available all the times. Welcome, come in and do your work. Welcome, welcome, they would say. We can't say that anymore because the hackers broke into the system. By the way, I don't like the word hackers. I think they should call them crackers. A hacker, the term hacker used to be a noble term of respect for someone who could write lines of code in so few lines of code. It was so elegant, old timers would shake their heads in disbelief. But now you've been conditioned by the mainstream media press, and you see the word hacker and you think, oh, he's doing the ransomware, okay? He hacked us, he's doing the ransomware. So now we can't say, welcome, all you guys. We have to say, warning, Will Robinson, you are not allowed on the system unless you are an authorized user. Otherwise, get out of here, you, because we're tracking everything, and we're going to come stick the FBI on you. So I'm going to put a message on here. And on the top of page 10, gives us a syntax for this. I have to be at the global configuration mode again. S1 config. We change the host name to S1 config. Banner. Message of the day. And he uses the pound sign as the delimiter character. You can actually use any character you want to, just so long as it doesn't appear within the message, because it's going to start and print everything between the 2 pound signs. Whatever you start with. I'll go ahead and use a pound sign like he does. Pound sign, warning, will. What will you put here? Whatever the lawyer at your company tells you to put there. So that they can feel that they've done their due diligence and we've warned the hackers and we can call them into court if they do something. You guys recognize, you know who Will Robinson is? Warning, Will, danger, Will Robinson, Boston Space. You guys are probably too young to remember that. Okay, so now what happens is I'm going to log off of the machine, and as soon as I try to log in, remember I had to put in Cisco before? Before I even get to log in, I've been legally warned. Warning. The lawyer said you can't come in here unless you're authorized to go in here. We're capturing all the packets and we're going to get you. Our firewall is going to get you. Cisco, enable, class. Now, step 8, save the configuration. All right, come in, set it in place that has a chair. Yes. Do a Control Z and it'll take you right out of it. Control Z will take you right back to the privileges. I forgot to tell you, that's the key Control Z. Hold down the Control key like a Shift key and touch the Z. And no matter how far you were in, let me go to the configuration mode and go to the console, line console, as line console 0. See, I'm way in the middle, descended into the depths of the global configuration mode, and I can just type Control Z and I'll be right back to the privilege exec mode, because certain commands don't work in the configuration mode, including show and copy run start, which is the subject of this next command. I want to save the configuration. Right now, anytime you type an iOS command into a switcher router, it takes effect instantly. It's passed into the RAM memory. It's in the running configuration. It has not yet been saved. So if I type the command, show me the startup configuration, it's never been saved. I want to save it. So the command copy, running configuration, startup configuration, will save it, and he makes you press enter again. Now if I do show start, it's been saved. It's a copy of the running configuration. So now I've completely finished setting up in an industrial commercial environment. I've completely finished configuring a router or switch, and I save it into the NV RAM, non-volatile RAM, which does not get lost. But if you lose power, it's like a flash drive; it doesn't lose it. So if somebody runs into the phone pole in the soccer field over there and knocks off the power to the whole campus, it happened in the middle of my class one time. We sent us home. Then when the power is restored, all the switches and routers will come back up again, and no one will have to run around and reconfigure 300 routers and switches. Okay, it's like your desktop PC. You store your password and your desktop stuff on the hard drive. Hard drives don't lose what's in them when they're turned off. You turn them back on again, and Windows comes right up again when the power comes back on. So step 9, I'm supposed to show the running configuration. So show the running configuration. Let's see what we do. Now, some of these lines are here by default. But here's what we did. We made the host name S1. We did the enable secret class. Now the console password is down at the bottom. I did the banner message today. And my morning message. I set the password to be Cisco. Before I did all that stuff, those lines were blank. They weren't set. On page 11, he says, show the iOS version. I mentioned this in the slideshow, show version. This is the stuff that scrolls off the screen. If any of you guys ever installed Linux, dual booted machine, oh man. If you want to go into a career in networking, the single most one important thing you can do besides take my class is learn Linux. You can learn it for free. You can get Red Hat commercial enterprise server from Red Hat for free. You can take their online course for free and learn Linux. Every single network management utility that's ever going to come out now and in the future is going to be Linux based. All the servers on the backbone of the internet, all the web servers are Linux or Unix based. Do yourself a favor and pick up some Linux. You go to YouTube, go to the Khan Academy, Professor Khan, go to someplace and pick up some Linux. You'll be glad you did. Okay, so show version shows all the stuff that rolls off the top of the screen. If you have a Linux machine, you see when it boots up, you see a bunch of stuff rolls off the top of the screen, and you have to type a message, D-M-E-S-G, D-message, bring it back. On the Cisco devices, I type show version, and that brings all that stuff back. And we can see, you know, how it's got 24 ports, it's got 2 gigabit ports, it has this serial number, it has this MAC address. It's running this version of the operating system software. So we can confirm stuff with this. Now, on page 12, bottom of page 12, we want to display the status of the connected interfaces on the switch. Show IP interface brief, the single most useful command in the entire world of Cisco. This shows me that here's our wiring. Our PCA goes into port 6 of the first switch, switch 1. Our PCB goes into port 18 of the second switch. And there's a wire between port 1 and 1 of the 2 switches to jumper them together so that ping would work. Okay, so I'm looking at switch 1. Yeah, port 1 is going to the switch. Port 6 is going to my PC. And there's another command that I like that's even better. Show interface status. Port 1 is connected. Port 6 is connected. We can see all that information on one screen that normally takes several commands to do. Okay, now, he says on the next page, repeat steps 1 through 12 to configure switch 2. In the interest of brevity, I will not do that on the screen. You guys will do that on your machine. Now, when you're done with the lab, you do not want to, can I say this? Are we being recorded? You do not want to piss off the advanced Cisco students, because they can mess you up 6 ways from Sunday, because they know a lot more stuff yet. So before you ever, when you finish doing the lab and you're okay, here, Mr. Hicks, thank you, turn it in. Erase. So in today's lab, after you finish, I'm going to show you the steps right now. I'll go over this, how to erase your switch. Because you should, when you're finished, you should erase your switch so that the next person that uses it doesn't have to figure out, oh, he misspelled class, he misspelled Cisco, I can't get into the device now. Now we got to do password recovery. We haven't covered that yet. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And he gives you the steps for this. Step 1, do the command show flash. The command dir, you DOS guys, works just the same. We're looking for the presence of a file called vlan.dat. It's in gray on the printout. We haven't covered VLAN stuff yet. That's the scope of another course. If it's there, it needs to be deleted. If it's not there, you can skip that step. You would have to type delete vlan.dat and press enter 3 times, and it would get rid of it. However, you must do this step. This next step is, remember when we did the show startup configuration? The startup configuration was there. We've saved the startup configuration, and we need to delete that so that the next person that uses the machine in another 8-week class on Tuesdays and Thursdays doesn't have to do this first. And so that's at the bottom of page 14. It says type the command erase, erase startup-config and press enter 2 times. Now it's erased. Now when I turn the switch off and on again, there will be no startup configuration. It'll come back and it'll be an unerased switch again. Okay, let me see. I'll stop recording. Oh.